Here we are again in the beautiful Columbia River Gorge, and this is Horsetail Falls, one of my favorites. It's just, well, it looks like a horse's tail. I guess it's better than looking like a horse's ass, but then again, the tail is on the ass. So, anyway, this is the Flaming Brain Podcast.
Well, I'm not going to say much here. This is just archival footage, I guess I could say. I came across this thumb drive that had like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, maybe 3, 4 years, I don't know, worth of video. And it's just unedited, unscripted, and here it goes.
And here's how things appear today. This is Saturday, the 9th. Here we have the centrifuge. Haven't been able to do too much on that until I can really finish it. I've decided to take off that race car seat, and I'm going to actually put the same seat that's going to be in my rocket. So as long as I'm getting G-forces, I might as well get G-forces like the rocket's going to exhibit. And there, of course, is the rocket on the tower. Obviously, this is me up on top of the tower. As the sun sets. There's the house, and as you can see, I've got this lovely little river here along my property.
Okay, now coming up here, this is a woman named, I think it was Hattie McDowell or something, but she was with the Today Show with Bryant Gumbel. He introduced her, and she came out with her film crew to do a story here, like a lot. I mean, I was on 87 television shows, and about half of them came out and did stories right from my property here, just like this.
But very few of those things will apply to this as far as the experience. Flying an airplane does not have much to do, because once I get inside this, I just push that lever forward, and that unleashes 12,000 pounds of thrust for 90 seconds. This will consume 8,000 pounds of fuel in about 90 seconds.
Aren't you terrified?
Expanded as far as my options.
And inspiring and setting standards.
Oh, yes. I always believed it would be the case that when people heard about this, that they'd say, "This is neat." I didn't expect so much of it this early on. I was expecting this to happen more after the fact. But after reading the kinds of messages I'm getting from people, I realized that there's a lot of people out there who don't look at sports figures or entertainers as being, I hate the word role model, but maybe a standard setter type. And now I look at this and think that, there's certain people that have inspired me when I was a kid. And I grew up holding them in high regard because of what they did. And one of my dreams would be that maybe 20 years from now I get a letter from someone who's maybe they just cured cancer or something, and that they tell me when they were a kid they saw me do my rocket and they were so impressed with it that they went out to pursue their own dream. So you never know. I mean, I hope to find myself in the position of being like the people that I found inspiring when I was growing up. So this is it.
It's not really your garage,
No, it's not a garage. It's a shop.
but it is out back the house.
Yeah, you see cars. You see oil stains on the ground. No,
No,
there's fiberglass stains on the ground.
I see a fiberglass seated maybe.
This is the very beginnings of a form, and this is filled up with wood and foam and fiberglass. And I will continue to cut, sand, grind, add material, take material away until it fits me just right. Then once the surface is finished like glass, be smooth and polished, I'll make a mold of it, and then that. Here's the rocket area today, Monday the 25th. I'm putting in a little building here for fuel distillation. This is going to be a test area. Over here is my centrifuge, which I'm still working on. I've got to put a little pod out here where my seat will be, and it spins around that center point, and this little engine here is what runs it. And this, of course, is the capsule on top of the mock fuel tanks. I won't be launching here. This is just a service tower so I can work on the rocket when it's vertical. There's the shop over there. This is the mold for the bottom half of the rocket. I just got it laid up in fiberglass today. I'm building several test capsules that'll be used for testing different aspects. The shop is quite a mess today, but these are some of my old toy prototypes that never made it to the market. And here you can just kind of see the overall layout. This is the form for the seat. I'll be making a mold of it also. These are the models showing better perspective of the size of the fuel tank compared to the size of the cap. And these are the molds here for the capsule. There's 3 of them, and each one has to be hand laid up. And then the 3 sections are bolted together, and they form a cavity, which is exact duplicate of the capsule sitting on top of the fuel tank. Alright, well, the first capsule's been laid up inside the mold, and I'm about ready now to crack the sections off.
Unfortunately, that center gets cut out. Anyway, you can see down below what over here is the center. Right through on the smoke section. Well, here it is, the first capsule out of the mold. As you can see, there's some places where the gel coat messed up, and I've got to do a lot of little cosmetic changes. Fortunately, this place is all cut out in here. That's where the window goes, but otherwise, very successful first molded capsule. This is the centrifuge that I'm still working on. I'll be sitting in a little seat right out here, and it'll spin around at 70 miles an hour so I can get acclimated to 8 Gs. And of course there's the mock-up of the rocket on the test tower. These are the molds. These 3 sections bolt together, and the cavity inside, when they're all bolted together, the cavity is exactly what that capsule is there. This is the mandrel that I'm using to build my tanks. There'll be 3 fuel tanks. And this is my first actual mock capsule. This came off the mold. And this is the first one I'm building, which allows me to fit and where the seat goes. And this won't actually fly. This is just one for testing and figuring out where all the fuel lines will run, and the controls and the instrument panel and all that sort of stuff. It opens and closes right here. That yellow flange slides inside that yellow ring, and that's where it seals up. And of course these are windows. This is one of the this is a test fuel tank, and this is obviously very short. The normal tank would be as long as the white pipe you saw out there on my mandrel. Here's how the capsule looks today, Wednesday or Thursday the 16th, after having brought it over to Portland for the Nike deal. Here you can see the HAL 9000 computer. Anyway, I've got to still finish the upholstery, and I've got to put the air cylinders in it that open and close it, but that's how it's looking. And this is also another project along the same vein as the rocket. This is the Slingshot airplane, single seat, computer guided missile for one person. I expect to have this flying in early spring. Launches off a catapult, uses 2 jet engines, flies from point A to point B at 400 knots, lands by parachute. And here I'm putting up a steel building here for my fuel distillation. It's going to go right on this concrete pad here. This is the original form that was built, from which I made the molds, and it was those molds that I pulled the first capsule from. This is my new building here. Actually, it's an old building, but it was just a pole barn, and I've finished the interior, so it's going to become some additional insulated and warm workspace alongside the main building here. Yeah, I was originally going to have a concrete brick building put here, but I think the metal building with its shape, an arch shape, will fit this better.
Another thing you can consider is raising your deductible. How high is your deductible for a month?
The deductible is only $250.
All right.
It's disappointing me that my agent did not try to work with us at all, and I told him that we could not afford this extra
Well,
claim.
you can certainly fire the agent, which you would do if you go find lower cost insurance elsewhere. But one of the things that can affect that premium a lot is to raise the deductible.
Okay.
And you may find that if you raise those deductibles, you're obviously going to increase your risk in terms of if there is an accident. You're going to have to lay on more payments, but you may save so much in premium that that won't even be an issue. So I would look at raising your deductible. You want for an auto loan right now for your vehicle?
Yes, I am. That's what she drives, or she works driving. And she hasn't drove since I taken her off the insurance. And
Well, except they're not letting you.
they're not flat.
Yeah, so you can.
Well, Reed, it's been a while since you've seen what's going on, so I thought I'd give you an update here. This is one of the first of 3 fuel tanks that are being built. We lay up fiberglass over this sewer pipe, and then when that comes off, these hemispheres get glassed onto the ends, and then it's 14 feet long and 22 inches in diameter. Then the entire thing will be wrapped in Kevlar. This is aramid Kevlar. I'll wrap about 50 pounds of this around that tank so it can withstand 500 pounds of air pressure inside. And these tanks will only weigh, when they're fully done, only weigh about 80 pounds apiece, which is going to be fantastic. And of course, here's the capsule. This, of course, is not the one I'll be in. This is my first of 3 or 4, but I've got it set up here. And this is the first slingshot plane I'm working on. All that foam you see on there is just for, that'll all get sanded down. That's a cheap and easy way to contour and get the shape you need. Anyway, this is full size. I would basically be sitting right in here. I haven't done the bottom yet. You see it's flat. But anyway, that's catapult launched. Gets up to top speed of 400 knots in 25 seconds. Flies in a straight line. Slows down, deploys a parafoil wing for landing. No pilot error, no pilot necessary. GPS controlled, guided missile basically. And catapult launched, parachute landed. So you're eliminating the 3 most dangerous parts of flying: takeoff, landing, and pilot error. And of course, this here is the newest addition. This is the building for distillation of the fuel. We just got the metal up, now we're getting the framing inside, so we'll insulate. This will be fully insulated, and it's going to be a nice little building. Anyway, I just thought you'd like to see, that's what's newest around here. These are the molds. These are the actual molds that I built the first capsule from. And this allows me to build as many as I need for testing flight. So anyway, that's the current. Still more work here this morning on the slingshot. You can see I sanded down all that foam, and I also put the 2 little turbines on it. These are little miniature jet turbine engines. They each develop about 50 pounds of thrust. They're really cool. Remember, this isn't technically an airplane. It's a catapult-launched missile that is only designed to fly in a straight line once it's launched. And a computer connected into a GPS makes tiny little changes to keep it on course. And then of course the parafoil comes out to land it. And those engines don't have to be strong enough for taking off because they only are there to sustain its flight. And of course over here I managed to get one of these hemispheres on the end of the tank, so you can see now what each tank will look like. So anyway, that's your update toy. And of course this is somewhat like except I'll be using 3 tanks now instead of 6. I've gone to a larger size tank, so I don't need to have the 6. And then of course there will be, you see the inner panel here is going to be 3 laminates of polycarbonate, but there will also be a molded acrylic windshield that fits into this sill, and that is actually going to be molded off the pieces that were cut out of the original plug. So when that's in place, it will maintain the exact same contour of the capsule, so at extreme high speeds there won't be any buffeting because of wind coming in and hitting those flat areas. Now over here, this is my first of the 3 tanks, and this tank was actually built by wrapping fiberglass, epoxy fiberglass on this mandrel. This is a 22-inch diameter, 13-foot sewer pipe. So I actually build these tubes, and then I have a mold to make the hemispheres that go on the end. Now, this is actually very stout. Looks pretty cool inside, too. So once these tubes are built, they fit into this jig here, and that allows me to, oops, there's a telephone. But anyway, to get this off the pipe, I actually have to, once the fiberglass tube is formed, I have to slit it and remove it, slit it so it's not, slit it while it's still uncured, and then as it cures I can peel it off, roll it back, then I climb inside and I can fiberglass the seam. Then the 2 end caps go on. Now the next step in this tank is to have it wrapped with Kevlar. I'll be wrapping it with probably about 40 pounds of Kevlar monofilament such as this, and that'll allow me to pressurize these tanks to 500 psi. The 3 tanks will be ganged together, and then in the little section between each tank here, there'll be a smaller tank, and that's going to be a high pressure 2000 psi tank of pressurized nitrogen gas. So all 3 of these tanks will hook together in the bottom, and they'll go into a chamber which feeds the rocket motor. So I'll be able to push 90 pounds of fuel per second into that chamber. As you can see, it's kind of a dreary day here. It's just a little above freezing, and it's gray. And anyway, there you can see the original form that I built the molds from. And of course over here is the 3 molds that the capsule comes off of. I can just make as many capsules as I want off of these molds. So there's your basic capsule and the tower, the service tower. This is the centrifuge. I've kind of curtailed work on that till spring now. I'm going to go ahead and, instead of having an open air seat right out there at the end, I'm going to actually mold one of these capsules without fins to go there, and I'll sit inside of the capsule. And then this here is my brand new building. This is for fuel distillation. And
The material later?
just a sec. So this is going to be the distillation room. It's all metal inside and fully insulated. And it kind of fits good here, I think, with the look of the rocket garden. So that's the facilities. Of course, there's the outside of the shop and my other building over here. This here is another project that This is the slingshot zipper. And what it's basically going to be is a little, it's a catapult launched missile. And seats one person. It's got two small turbine engines in it. It's aimed at its destination, launched off of a 150-foot catapult. There's a peroxide rocket motor that burns for 20 seconds to boost it to top speed. Then the little turbines keep it going, sustaining it. And then when it's ready to land, it deploys speed brakes and deploys a special landing parafoil. Anyway, this one here is just a plug for a mold. I'm going to make a prototype. I've got two little 45-pound thrust jet turbine engines that go inside here, and they're really cool. This was the official rocket.
I really liked my little jet engines. They put out 55 pounds of thrust and were the loudest things in creation. They were really, really cool little guys. I put one on my bike, one on my paraglider harness, and two on my go-kart. This is something cool I started but never finished. You lie on this, and it'd be dropped from a helicopter, and you'd glide down on it. And then, of course, this was my prototype for the slingshot zipper.
Here we are now, it's January 9th. Current status of the project. We're getting ready to build a new mold of the capsule that will have no fins on it. This is the new fuel distillation building, and we're just in the process of putting in the still. This is the main flask that you put the 50% peroxide in, and then it goes through this column. The excess water comes out, condenses, and then goes down into this container. And what's left here is a higher concentration. So depending on how long you run it, your concentration increases. And there'll be a vacuum pump also in here to, it's a vacuum distillation process. This is the mandrel that we make the tanks on. And in here you can see, this is one of the tanks now. There'll be 3 tanks just like this. And then when they're, this is the blank. It weighs about 30 pounds, very lightweight fiberglass. And it will be wrapped with carbon fiber. So it can withstand 500 pounds of air pressure. These tanks are 14 feet long. So 3 of these will hold about 8,000 pounds of fuel. This, of course, is the mold for the back end. And, of course, a couple of my other projects, the slingshot, one-man guided missile, and my jetpack. So that's your basic update today, January 9th, 2001. Well, here we can see the first capsule. And this came off of this mold. And there's the back section. And of course over here, this was the form for that mold. Now I've made some changes. This is the new back portion. You can see here this one had a smooth back, but this new one is going to have 6 133-pound thrust rocket motors, so it'll develop almost 900 pounds of thrust for separating the capsule from the fuel tank, which it normally does when the fuel tank's empty, and that also acts as an emergency system to separate in the event of emergency. This was the form, and this is the mold. And as you can see, this mold splits into 6 pieces because in order to pull the part, because of the undercuts, it has to be separated. See inside. Now the new capsule won't have fins on it. The fins look neat, but they present all kinds of problems for induced aerodynamic instability. So this is the new form over here. And this mold for this capsule will not have any fins. It's also going to have a modified nose. That'll be cut back about 1 foot, and it'll have a pointed end. That's where the recovery parachute and balut will go. So this is built on a giant lathe. It rotates so I can make sure that it's absolutely perfectly round and completely symmetrical. Fuel distillation building. I still haven't completely finished setting up the still, but you can see in the back here, these are the flasks and the stacks that condense the peroxide. The water comes into this one, and the purified peroxide drops back down into that flask. Centrifuge, which now has the pod. I didn't like the idea of sitting in the open with 70 mile-an-hour of wind. So once it's completed, this will have a seat inside here. And so when it's spinning around, it'll be completely enclosed and away from the air. So there you can see it. There's a little 22 horse motor or engine on this end with a prop, and it rotates around that point. Anyway, that's pretty much a view of everything as it stands today, March 7th, 2001. And this, of course, is my shop, the main shop. And next door is the auxiliary building, which I'm still trying to finish completely inside. A couple other projects, the jetpack and the slingshot, one-man, turbine-powered, catapult-launched missile. This is one of the three fuel tanks. It's basically it's a fiberglass tube that has hemispheres. You can see there's a hemisphere on one end down here. And these will get wrapped in carbon fiber so they can withstand 500 psi. And over here you can see one of the little test tanks. And I actually use a sewer pipe as a mandrel. This gets waxed up and sprayed with mold release. And then the fiberglass is laid up around that. And then once it's cured, it's slid off and the hemispheres are put on. And then it'll go onto a machine that wraps it with carbon fiber. So anyway, that's it. And it's a lot of work.